Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. I'm Matias Felipe from the University of Navarra in Spain, and with my colleague and friend Lucia Mesquita from Dublin City University from Ireland, we are going to present today our study Data Journalism Beyond Technological Determinism. We also want to thank you, the Joe Project, which support us in conducting this study and being here today. Without further delay, we will be presenting today our theoretical framework, which discusses the data journalism in Latin America and the role of social networks in collaborative projects, which can result in these endogamous and homophilous behaviors. In order to study this, we will be presenting first our data and methods that we use to analyze this phenomenon, and then we're going to make a brief discussion about our findings, which provides a glimpse into the context of these relationships in the collaborative data projects. To conclude, we discuss the three main finds of this paper. So, to start, data journalism in Latin America is produced under a variety of conditions that make it even more difficult to perform than in the Western societies. For example, the lack of quality personnel, the low levels of data literacy across the region, and the complexity of national politics are some of the challenges that these professionals, data journalists, have learned to overcome together to plan and design data stories. A great part of these learnings was possible thanks to international organizations that became interested in developing data skills across the region. Among these organizations, we could identify in our study, for example, the School of Data and its local chapters in Portuguese, Escola de Dados, and Spanish one, Escola de Datos, the ICFJ, the Open Knowledge Foundation, and the Internews. In addition, local journalists and civic society organizations were also involved in this process. For example, the ABRAJ in Brazil and the Sociology in Mexico. So these grassroots communities brought journalists and technologists to work together during trainings and workshops, which allowed them to know each other and create these networks of professionals that were used later to develop collaborative projects across the region. These social networks are important sources of information, and therefore they were also important to bring new knowledge to the newsroom. In this respect, two events were really important: the open data culture and the use of freedom information laws that were not common before, and these professionals by these social networks understand the importance and brought to their newsrooms. In addition, these international organizations also played an important role in expanding the collaboration culture across Latin America. This allowed data journalism practice to become more sustainable and capable of delivering more consistent results, overcoming the previous mentioned limitations. Also, these small communities tend to influence each other in respect to innovative practices. However, innovation in the news industry is expressed through a series of incremental changes that doesn't radically make different routines and norms in the newsrooms. So, collaborative journalism therefore served as a tool for these news organizations to overcome these limitations and try to implement innovative projects. By working together, these organizations can collectively develop innovative capabilities that were not undertaken by their news outlets due to the limitations of time, staff, and funds. On the other hand, these partnerships tend to reproduce social behaviors. In our study, we could identify two main factors that limit the ability of these collaborations to go further. First, as described in network science, the most active nodes in a network are described as hubs. These hubs play a powerful, influential role in these groups, influencing the way that things are done and how they think. So these groups create a social regime to relationships that serve to propagate and sustain these alliances, limiting the active participation of newcomers. Therefore, these social habits can manifest what we call endogamous and homophilous behaviors, that is, ties that are settled with the others that share similar interests and the ones that were before in this network. The second factor is that these organizations create a cultural capital, that is, the knowledge, skills, and behaviors that are transmitted from one individual to another within their social cultural context, establishing dominant cultural codes in their society. This is a result of a social distance that means that these professionals have a gap of knowledge to understand the difference between what happens in their circle and the audience. And this reflects in the data stories. So based on that characteristic, we came with the two research questions. So our first research questions: what are the hurdles and opportunities identified by data journalists in Latin America to tailor strategies to deliver better data stories for the general public? And the second research question is: how do social network mechanisms support and constrain the practice of data journalism in Latin America? To understand this issue in Latin America, we conduct semi-structured interviews with 25 practitioners from 22 news organizations that are shown in this slide. These interviews were performed in native language of the journalists, that is Portuguese and Spanish. On average, they last 60 minutes. We transcribed and coded these interviews, which are then analyzed under these codes that we identified. Based on that, our results shows that data journalism is usually seen under the lens of the technological determinism, as it is a technological activity. Here, we took a different approach and used the sociological perspective to analyze the intrinsic interference of behaviors on the data-driven storytelling. So our results show that there are three main areas where these behaviors manifest in data journalism. First, data evangelization is a practice that is necessary to promote data skills inside the newsroom. Therefore, data journalists should become a well-known person inside the newsroom for people to understand and collaborate with the data unit. In fact, these data evangelists are focus points or hubs in these networks that connect data units and the other teams in the newsroom. Second, data journalism in Latin America rely on alliances to produce data-driven investigative stories. There are a series of formal and informal collaborations. An example of a formal collaboration is Rede Pauta, that put together 7 news outlets to serve as a system of checks and balances of the use of public money to identify partners of bad practices in the government across the region and mainly from these 7 countries. Besides that, cooperative projects act as innovators in their respective newsrooms by establishing new practices and promote data stories that use cross-ground data. On the other hand, these collaborations work as bubbles, which always working together in the same group of journalists or news organizations, restricting other professionals to participate. Last but not least, the humanization of data is an important effort made by these professionals. This means that they need to overcome the low levels of data literacy across the region, and as one of our interviews mentioned, this ability translates to data points in a simple and plain story that people can easily digest. For example, the digital magazine Piauí from Brazil uses literary journalism with data to translate complex information into a digestible format that readers can easily understand. For this, they take a story of a specific person or a character that serves to represent or to tell the story of a whole population. In summary, our study shows that the Latin American data journalism community faces an unequal development with a widening gap between some countries. In taking up in this challenge and looking forward to continue to disseminate journalism practices in the newsroom across the region, practitioners are acting in 3 fronts together: humanizing data, collaboration, and evangelization. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to reach us out